This is in quotes. While these analyses provide clues as to what motivates or triggers rough sexual behavior, several questions remain unanswered. Jealousy may be one motivator for men, but rough sex was reportedly desired and initiated by both sexes. So what the motivators are for both sexes, or particularly for women, remains unexplored. What are your thoughts on that, Catherine?
My thoughts on it is that it sounds familiar. But I think in terms of the sort of unexplored, the what's driving women to initiate rough sex or to be interested in it, I think there could be a couple different things. One of them is actually what you were alluding to before, this issue about the idea that a guy may want you so badly, be so passionately in love with you, that he is not as careful as he might otherwise be. And, there's a long history of women finding that at least appealing in their fantasy lives. If you think about romance novels and bodice ripper romances, I mean, they're all about the guy not being able to control himself and like, I will die if I don't have you kind of thing. And the idea that somebody could be that incredibly devoted to you, I think, is appealing to women who are often very interested in commitment, right? And the idea that you would have that kind of power over another individual in that sense, I think, is appealing. So I think that could be part of it. There's also, been this sort of idea tossed around that it could be similar to what we see in some other animal species, where females will require males to demonstrate their own sort of physical prowess. And so my favorite example when talking about it with students is what we call the bump test. And so this is something that happens in gladiator frogs. And so gladiator frogs will approach a female frog, and she will actually be aggressive towards him. And if he runs away, she won't mate with him. But if he's pushy back, then she'll actually have sex with him, right? So she's like selecting for sort of aggressive and physical strength on the part of the male frog, right? And so there's this idea that maybe females are doing that, unconsciously in humans sometimes, and they may be initiating this because they actually are, taking some sort of reward or pleasure in testing male ability to demonstrate their strength, right? In the same way that women might enjoy watching men compete in different kinds of physical sports. Because again, it's sort of showing off prowess.
That makes sense. It's the closest, I suppose, that a woman could get to experiencing a man's physical strength, kind of all brought to bear on her.
Yeah. I think it's like if you imagine some of the kinds of things that are in that assessment of rough sex, right? It would include things like wrestling, right? And sort of that kind of play fighting and overpowering kind of thing. And yeah, it's typically going to be the closest thing that you would experience to that. And so it is a way of sort of trying to assess that, and in a playful way, not really a threatening way.
What about the novelty seeking but not aggression thing?
Yeah, well, so that was mostly looking at sort of motivations and the idea that just sort of trying new things, openness to experience is associated with it. So in the study, there were a bunch of different questions that asked them about what kinds of things and experiences do you find associated with your experiences of rough sex, whether it's a male or a female initiating it. And one of the things that popped out was this idea about trying it because it's something different, it's something new, we were bored. We saw it in a movie, different things like that being indicators. And it was correlated with a bunch of other things that are associated with novelty seeking, like having sex in public places, engaging in sex with sex toys, things like that. So it seemed to be more about novelty than about aggression in terms of like having negative feelings about the person that you're being aggressive towards. And the one that was also in there that we talked about that it's interesting because it kind of has a little bit of overlap is this issue about sexual jealousy, that when men may be experiencing sexual jealousy, they may be more likely to engage in rough sex. And in particular, the rough sex was actually just being rougher during the sex act, thrusting harder, penetrating further. What was interesting about that is that the women reported experiencing a shorter duration to orgasm when they engaged in that kind of sex. So, I mean, it could be rewarding for the women because it's actually maybe extra arousing, maybe providing better stimulation.
How did you study that?
We asked people. We didn't have them come into the lab and tell them, we want you to have sex like you really
You've got it. You've got another half an inch out of it there. You've done very well.
Yeah, we did not do that. Although it would be fabulous if somebody did do that kind of study. But no, we did not. We were asking undergraduates. So we did not have them come in and engage in activities.
Glad that you didn't have to go through that. What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.